Well, you know, Karl Marx must be spinning in his grave in Highgate Cemetery in London, because earlier this month, would you believe it, at a New York investment conference, his name was brought up approvingly, along with a nod towards what were apparently his ideas. It was the investment conference called by Pravin Gordhan, our beleaguered finance minister, who had a delegation including business leaders and trade unionists. And it was one of the trade unionists, Dennis George, the General Secretary of the Federation of Unions of South Africa, FEDUSA, who actually raised the issue of Karl Marx while he was arguing for more collaboration between trade unions, workers, and their bosses. In fact, however, that's not really Marx's theory. Marx talked in terms of transformation, not reform. These ideas belong more correctly to someone whose initials are the other way around, not KM, Karl Marx, but MK, Maynard Keynes, who was a British economist, very well known for putting forward ideas about more regulation, more state regulation, to present a kinder face of capitalism. And it's not surprising, even that Marx's name should be used and not create havoc in a place like New York at an investment conference. Not surprising at all. Because, you know, the economic policy pendulum is now starting to swing away from what they refer to as neoliberalism and back towards more regulation and collaborative work. And there's nothing new in this. In the boom times immediately after the Second World War, this is before we had Ronald Reagan in the United States and Margaret Thatcher in Britain, who became the figureheads and the praise singers of global neoliberalism. Before then, there was quite a move in many countries, Germany was one, Austria, Sweden, of collaborative work at different factories, where you actually ended up with some worker representatives, and I say some worker representatives on the boards of big companies. But now this pendulum has swung the other way. It went through to laissez-faire, so-called neoliberalism, which has failed. We're now in a continuing crisis, mired down in joblessness and instability. And there's a desperate search now underway by politicians, by business tycoons, and by mainstream economists to find some way out of this mess that we're in. But at the same time, they don't accept that there could be any alternative to the existing system, only variations on the same theme, which means primarily private ownership, stock exchanges and listing on stock exchanges. But you know, even in the present capitalist system of mainly private enterprise, etc., there are actually examples, good examples, that show that the stock exchange is not necessary, that private ownership is not necessary, because there actually exist successful worker-controlled enterprises in countries as diverse as Britain and Argentina, for example. Anyhow, this is the focus I will have for my Inside Labour column, which you can consult on this platform, Fin24 tomorrow, and a version of which will appear in the City Press business section on Sunday. Now, there's plenty to talk about there, not just the economy, not just ways out of the economy. Talk about these ideas of collaborative ownership, shall we say, or transformation. Is transformation possible? It's wide open. It's over to you. I'd love to hear from you. Send in your comments, your criticisms, your suggestions to editor@fin24.com. That's editor@fin24.com. And for this week, that's all from me. Cheers.